Thank you for this opportunity to share on behalf of the Speaker of the National Assembly of Zambia and indeed on behalf of management some of the reforms that we've been undertaking, particularly with regard to our deaf community and sign language that we've been providing on our parliamentary television. It took a bit of time to come to fruition because we needed to undertake some consultations with the relevant stakeholders, namely the Zambia Agency for Persons with Disabilities and the Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation, amongst the other stakeholders. So following the successful consultation with all these stakeholders, it was felt that we could identify people that would help us with sign language interpretation. So this has now been going on for some time, from June 2022 when this was introduced. And obviously it started as a pilot, but over the last 4 or 5 months, we have recorded successes in this regard. Although at the moment we are using the sign language interpreters on a part-time basis, but funding being available in due course, and this is our plan as part of our vision. The idea is to ensure that once funding is secured, then we would incorporate the identified sign language interpreters into the core structures of the institution. So I would like our listeners and our viewers to learn from what we've done. I think that it has benefited a great deal in ensuring that everybody is carried on board, particularly in this regard, the deaf community.
Now, sign language has the, I would say, unfortunate needs of having a specific place where a person has to sit and no other person can use their camera. So we had to find a way of getting the sign language signal into our services and finding a space for these people who are doing the sign language. So our needs were, we had to have a specific camera, we had to have cabling back into our system, and of course, there was the issue of keying it into our program line. When the chamber or a committee is on, we needed that signal to be put into a mixer, a vision mixer that is. Now these vision mixers are the ones which use that signal and put it up onto the screen in a smaller picture than the main picture. It's called picture-in-picture. It's a function of our vision mixer. Luckily, we had a vision mixer that was able to do that, even though our inputs were limited by our initial scope of work. We were able to do this by, first of all, finding a place where our sign language interpreters could sit, which is very close to our chamber and is capable of putting out sound that they can hear. Because the primary issue about sign language is translating what is said into physical movement, that is, the hands of the sign language interpreter. So our viewers who have impaired hearing need to be able to see the words. So there are two issues that are being dealt with here. There's the sound that goes to the interpreter who does not have hearing impairment, and the visuals that the interpreter is putting out that is going to a person with hearing impairment. So it was an interesting problem, more about location than the engineering. The engineering factors we had already looked at and dealt with in theory.
Prior to 2021, there was no provision in the standing orders for sign language interpretation. However, when the standing orders were being reviewed in 2021, it was thought that sign language be introduced, and a provision was made in the standing orders so that every citizen is involved or engaged during parliamentary proceedings. I must make mention that introducing sign language interpretation is an essential action that parliaments need to take in order to engage all citizens in parliamentary proceedings.
During the campaigns, I had a meeting with people living with a disability that they should be part and parcel of the proceedings the way they take part in voting. So immediately when I came to Parliament, I saw that some sector in the people living with a disability, they were not following the proceeding. They didn't know what was happening in Parliament. That's why it made me to raise a point of order so that people living with a disability, especially the deaf people, should be following the proceedings, because that's where, in Parliament, that's where laws are made. So they should be part and parcel, and right now they are benefiting most of the things which are happening in Parliament, like the laws. They're benefiting, they're able to know to say now these laws are changing from A to B, just like that.
The introduction of sign language has brought a number of impacts to us as Parliament TV. The first being that it has brought in inclusiveness, because everyone is able to follow the proceedings of Parliament. Secondly, it has increased viewership for Parliament TV. Previously, only those that were able to listen and hear were able to follow the proceedings. But now, even the deaf can follow the proceedings as they happen in Parliament.
Hello, my names are James Kapembwa. I am the Executive Director at Zambia National Association of the Deaf. Parliament TV before had no sign language interpreters, but now sign language interpreters are there. This is a very good move. This has allowed us, the deaf community, to be following parliamentary debates. We, the deaf people, we want this to continue. This has benefited all of us.
Having sign language interpreters on Parliament TV is long overdue. It is a very welcome move and appreciated by the deaf community, the interpreting fraternity, and the society at large. Parliament enacted the Disability Act No. 6 of 2012, Article 49. Of the Act says all TV stations should have sign language interpretation on TV. And now Parliament TV is setting a very good example.
I'm telling you, here in Eastern Province, with the introduction of sign language interpretation on Parliament television, we are absolutely happy, because we are moving on the same pace with the people living with disabilities. Hence, anything that is happening in the House, they are able to see and distinguish what is really happening, and they are able to understand. So we people who follow Parliament TV, we are happy, because our colleagues previously, they were lacking a lot. They could ask us questions as what have they said there. But because we don't have that knowledge to explain to them, now with this introduction, with people who are veterans in this interpretation, are able to communicate effectively with the people living with disabilities, who are our friends, our mothers, our daughters. So we are very happy to see such interpretation, and would like to encourage the government to say we need more.
I'm very much happy that the Parliament TV has introduced sign language in our country. And I would like all the TV stations to introduce it too, because it is very important for people living with a disability. What I meant by that is the deaf people, because they've got difficulties in how to get the information, in even the issues that are being run in our country.